Hey yo, I welcome you all back to another episode of One on One with Courtney Starks. If you tuned in, I want to say a little over an hour ago, you got to experience something uncapped, something something real, something raw, a level of vulnerability that I haven't been able to relay for so long. And I'm still reeling over it. I'm still reeling over the fact that I was able and given the opportunity to tell my truth, to tell my story, to share my story with you guys, you all. And my hope and my prayer is that I was able to plant a seed in your life, that I was able to open up a part of you that you need to go back and search for. You know, a lot of times we live in this bubble, you know what I mean? And then we pretend that we're good when we aren't. So once again, shout out to Nola Baylor for taking the time out of her day to just speak to me. It was definitely needed. It was definitely something that needed to happen in that moment, and I am forever grateful for it. We are actually about to have another guest on. This guest, boy, what can I say about this one? Mr. Brandon Morel. So, this young man has literally been a part of the Courtney's Corner enterprise, shall I say, from day one. Our first episode, he was my first guest. He was the co-host last season, and he's here again for season. I'm sorry, don't know what that was about. He literally has been here with us, supporting us, holding us down throughout this entire venture. And I am excited. I am honored to be able to have him here with us for one-on-one with Courtney Starks. My man, my brother, Brandon Morel. I can't say no more than that. I am lucky to be able to have him. Let's do this. Yo,
Yo, what's good, bro?
what's going on?
Shit, man. You know, days be busy and be on the move, man.
Nah,
Things
I hear
as
you.
expected, but it's cool.
I hear you. Well, thank you for coming on. I know we had to change the timing, but things happen, life happens. Just happy to have you on. I had to give you an intro. I felt like you deserved an intro. You deserved to know just how much I appreciate you. For those who I was telling people, like, literally no one understands how much you've been a part of Courtney's Corner. You know,
Hey, well, I appreciate it, man. I'm just one of those people, man. If I see people doing something good, even when they're in the developmental stages and all of that stuff, like I think it's important to support other people. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Especially when it's something positive. You know, Lord knows there's so much of the negativity all around. So
Nah, for real.
yeah.
For real. Especially now. But for people who don't know, let people know who Brandon Morel is, please.
So me, husband, father, youth minister, artist. I don't know, man. I'm just a dude who God has been calling on the journey. I don't know all the steps of that journey. It'd be feeling like he's been taking me on a wild ride. So I mean, it's been cool. Like even right now, man. So back at the church, there was for those in the program to become deacons, this thing step towards that being an acolyte, and kind of found out, and they asked me. I've been streaming all the like services and everything at the church, and so the prayer times and stuff like that. So I had to run and take care of that. I had the wrong time for it on mine. But I think probably what happened, and this is because I know myself, I probably put it earlier than what it was so that I wouldn't be late for it.
You wouldn't be late.
But yeah, so I mean that's me. I'm just I enjoy creating art, making stuff, and just building with people. Yeah.
I never asked you this, and I think you've been on my show 3 different times before. How did you get your name, Be the Symbol?
So, for those that know and have followed from way before that, so I mean, I've been making music my entire life, right? Literally, my uncle was a DJ. Like, first time he recorded my voice, I was literally 2 years old, and so like that, and then like in middle school, my music teacher, she had gotten like this little like MIDI keyboard that you can make beats on, and like this little like tape cassette recorder thing. And I used to skip lunch. I used to like skip stuff and try to go over there and record and make stuff. And initially, my first like rap name was Phil X, and it was this flip of my father's name, which is Felix. I think looking back, what I used to say was I was trying to be clever, right? So I was trying to be like, well, because I was learning in math, you algebra, you solve for x, and x is the missing equation of your life. And at the end, you're gonna feel it. That was what I used to say.
No.
Yeah, I was being extra, but that's what I used to say. As I've kind of grown, developed, and I look back, a lot of it was so many of us, especially urban minority communities, whatever, looking for that affirmation from our fathers. You know what I'm saying? And so me flipping my father's name was a big part of me, like trying to like do that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Now, how I got to the symbol, Be the Symbol. So kind of in my journey, walking with that, I was creating, making stuff, doing stuff, community events, whatever I could. At the same time, I'm growing in this relationship with God, had this encounter, and I kind of made this change to be like, okay, well, maybe God, maybe you can do something specific through this art that, I thought it was just something for me, but maybe there's something more with it. Yeah. And so, long story short, there was this one mixtape I put out, and I had this event, and it was the first time my pops actually came to see me perform, right? And like later that night, he sent me a text. I don't know if that night or maybe the next day. He sent me a text, and it was like like just kind of encouraging words. And there was this little light bulb that went off in my head, and I was like, it's time to change the name. Like, just like, I don't know, like it just felt like I'm good. Like,
yeah.
And it was funny. That was maybe about at least 6 to 8 months later. There was a bunch of other things happening, kind of in my life simultaneously at the time. And long story short, I went into the church this one Thursday. I just remember because where I worked at, the church up the block would open its doors all day on Thursdays. And like I said, I was going through a lot at the time, and I was like, all right, I'm going to go.
Wait a second. Oh, man, not again. Not again.
What's up? I don't know. It kind of cut for a sec. Did you catch any of that?
No.
Okay.
The last thing you said was going into the church.
Okay, so now it was a Thursday, and I knew it was a Thursday because the church up the block from me, I just happened to be walking by one day, and I noticed all day on Thursdays they would leave it open. People would come in and pray and stuff. And this particular, I was trying to make this one decision about something I was going to do. And I was like, God, what do you want me to do? And I walked in, and I sat there and no lie, kneeled for like a few minutes. And God put one of those funny moments where I was like, okay, God, what do you want me to do? And I literally heard the words, Be the Symbol. And I was like, that's not what I asked. And second of all, what
I'm
in the world
sorry,
does
God.
that?
I'm sorry, God. That's not what I was asking you for. Say it again.
Yeah, word. I'm like, first off, I don't know, and then second, I don't even know what that means. So at first, I think I'm bugging because I literally like, I mean, and maybe that sounds crazy to some people, because sometimes we see movies and you're like, oh, you heard from God, whatever. I mean, in some moments, it's not really hearing. Sometimes it's more like an impression you feel in your heart. You move
Yeah.
it, but there literally are moments where you can hear. You know
You
what I'm
can
saying?
hear, right?
There's these mystical moments, and I've had a whole bunch throughout my life in different ways. But I heard it, and I was like, okay, I don't know what that means. I left, just like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
So I just, for some reason, that same day, I decided that I was gonna do that thing that initially what I went in to ask for about, but I didn't feel like I got an answer. I didn't feel like I got an answer.
Mm.
But I decided, all right, I'm gonna just roll with it. I'm gonna do it. And anyway, long story short, that particular decision led me to be connected with a certain people, community, so forth. And as kind of time went on, I happened to be at an event, and one of them was speaking, and they said, you know, you talking about their community, the Adventist missionaries, is like, to be a missionary in this way is you have to be a symbol of Christ to the world around you. And I'm like, oh, is that what you meant? And the more I think about it, is like, because it's funny, like it reveals itself over time for me. It's like, we live in a time where there's people put on the front about so much stuff, and that's across the board, right?
Of
Like
course.
social media world, you know, after you take a picture from 400 different angles, you put through filters, send it to a graphic designer, bring it back, and then post the hashtag no filter. You lying.
The truth.
And we try to perpetuate this image. It really is kind of a challenge to be like, hey, well, look, I really want to be what it is that I'm talking about, not just make songs about it, not just post about it, not just be involved with it, but like really be that on a daily basis. And I fall short of that sometimes, and sometimes
Of course.
I'm better with it. But yeah, that's really, I mean, kind of a long thing, but that's where the name kind of comes from.
So you get this basically this revelation, like God is saying to you in different aspects, this is what I want you to do, right? But you also then said we are minorities. We're living in a lot of impoverished communities. So how were you able to set a focus and a goal, knowing that you're living in a community that in some aspects are gravitating you in the other way?
Man, so I just gotta say I've been lucky to meet the right people at the right time and be in the right situation. You know, the sort of Christianese version of that is just, you know what I'm saying? We talk about great, but I mean, a simple way of putting it is just like, man, I can't make up like, man, I happen to meet this person. I happen to go through this thing.
Right.
A lot of times I could have went down the wrong road, and a lot of times I dabbled even in those wrong roads, and like something happened, like I said, a person, a movie, a song, a situation, that all kind of just stirred me back and continue to do that. You know, and sometimes people talk about this stuff and they're like, I was here, it was bad, this happened. And for me, it's more like a video game with like levels and checkpoints, bonus rounds, and bonus and all that. So, yeah.
So you decide, listen, I'm going to do as you will, God. You know, and even though I don't know how I'm going to do this, I'm going to go. So then you decide to start going full force in ministry. How were you able to change what you then were rapping about? Because I'm guessing then your rapping styles changed. You went from, I guess, a regular rapper to a Catholic artist. How was the change for you?
Yeah, well, man, so I never was able to verbalize this as a kid. But again, as you kind of grow and mature, you realize things. Music was my first form of prayer. Art was my first form of prayer. I wouldn't have said that at the time, but it was the way that I I mean, even go back to the original name, right? When I was trying to be all clever about it, really what I was saying is this is the way that I self-reflect. Rest of the world, like what comes of that is from that process, you know?
Right.
And so, yeah, it just really became about as my lifestyle started to change, as the things I was involved with started to change, then naturally you speak about the same things. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. It's like a testimony to your story.
Yeah, and so I mean, to this day, like, I mean, I'm not one of those guys that like knocks secular artists or anything like that. Like, I mean, if that's genuinely what your life is, you know, you can see that. Like, I mean, I respect people like the J. Cole's and them, you know, like people that are authentically them in their walk and wherever they're at. Like, it
Yeah.
just, and in this, like I said, in a sense, there is a sense of prayer being spoken through that. There is a sense of like something spiritual or soulful happening, you know, in that just artistic process of exploring in that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's really just what it was. And I think I went through phases of it where like there's certain moments where you feel like, oh, I have to talk about these things or I have to say these key words in order for it to be
Legit.
Christian, ostensibly, any of this. But for me, I've realized like as kind of time went on, it's like, no, like that's not one that just comes across like just kind of disingenuous. But why did I really start doing this in the first place? Why was I always doing it? And just kind of like just letting God show up in the process of it. You know?
Right. And in large part, I feel like a lot of times, I love what you said about like, you know, our words. Like God already knows what we're going through. God already knows. He already knows our future. He already knows our present. He already knows our journey. So it's not like if when you're talking and you're talking to God, he really doesn't know. You know what I mean? So like trying to rationalize words is always, for me, I find it like comedic. Like he knows what you want to say. He knows your heart. So just say it. Just talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, some people like kind of like are against it, especially some of the older crowds. But I'm just like, man, whatever you feeling, whatever you thinking, whatever you're going through, you said now. Once you get into a place of a leadership position, you have to be intentional about what that looks like in the public eye, right? Because
Right.
I hear people the wrong way. But in your private time, you know, private prayer, reflection, meditation, whatever word you want to give to it, time, like just be unapologetically you, and like he'll work in that. Like I love one of people I look at in their walk is Saint Augustine, and he had if you ever look at his story, like one, my man was completely against it, and he had one of those praying moms, you know, that like just wouldn't, just it was extra about it,
Yeah.
kept running away from it. And anyway, as he's going through kind of his conversion experience, one of the things he writes is he said in his prayer he kept asking because he used to like be with this, that, and the third woman, and was very, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
promiscuous, you could say, in that way.
Yes.
But one of his prayers was, "Lord, make me chaste, but not yet." He was like, "Okay, no, this is where I'm supposed to be at, but I ain't ready for that yet. So get there eventually, but let me have my fun for right now." And it's one of those funny things where like God worked with that. He was like, "All right, cool," like, you know, and just in that genuine expression, you know, eventually there was kind of turnaround, you know. And so he's applying it specifically to sexuality, but I think it goes for anything in your life, you know.
Right. So what inspired you to not only use their gift that God gave you, but want to give it back and pour it back into young people?
So initially, the initial thought was just like, it was very much only music centered, right? And it was just like, okay, I have this thing, I have this. I don't even know if I would have called it a gift at the time. This is what I do, you know, like that's just
Right.
but at first it was like, okay, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna just see where it goes. And you know, led to just putting a couple projects out online, to, traveling and performing and getting invited to this youth group and this retreat and this event, which then led to like, okay, well, we're gonna fly you in for this event for this weekend or this conference, And
Yeah.
I mean, specifically with something like hip hop, like hip hop and church don't sound like they belong in the same sentence, let alone the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so, in the midst of that, one, catching some heat, but two, also having a place where I stood out, because it wasn't like everything else. And so, anyway, traveling around different places and, like me just being honest about stuff, I would just share, like, kind of in a real way. Some parts of it, maybe if I would look at it now, I wouldn't have said it as explicitly as I did maybe at the time. But I think young people, especially young people at those times, needed to hear it that way because they would approach me like afterwards. And I mean, I can't tell you how many stories I have of, both young teenage guys and girls just breaking down about different things. I mean, young girls like literally confessing, like, man, I remember, I can really remember even the places and the times of some of the like deep stuff. They're like, man, I didn't share this with nobody. And this kind of tug kept happening in my heart, like, okay, well, man, this is cool for this event, but what happens after this,
Yeah.
Who walks with them afterwards? And long story short, fast forward, I am doing an event in Texas. They flew me in for the weekend, and this one young person from that weekend, they reached out on Instagram, and they were getting confirmed. They were getting their confirmation. And they were like, hey, will you be my confirmation sponsor? And I'm like, I'm just some dude who came to rap for the weekend. Like, and it was this weird moment, like, okay, God, well, what? And so, anyway, from that experience, talked with the family and kind of everything like that, met them. I flew down, I don't know, 6-8 months later for the confirmation. And going back to the airport, coming back to New York, I was like, okay, I have to do this fully.
Right.
And like, can't explain it, but yo, I literally quit my job the day coming back. Like, I just took that leap. And I mean, it was kind of, I mean, I was lucky I had a little bit of savings here. I was still getting some events and some freelance art stuff here and there to fill the gap before like a youth ministry position opened up. And even when I did that, like first, even that, like I'm catching heat and stuff. I initially got hired for 3 churches, kind of shared between them.
Yeah.
And, some lady in one of those parishes found out about my past, caused a whole big drama. The pastor pulled out of the grant that paid for me, and I went from boom, this salary to literally 1/3 of it, and I filled a gap with that. And I was there for a few years, maybe, and then landed new parish. And so, yeah, man, it's just been like, I mean, like I said before, it's these journeys and steps, but that the initial part was the traveling and the conversations. The kind of stamp on it was that one young person's confirmation, who I was there for their wedding now last year, like, and yeah, other things have kind of revealed over time with different stuff. So
that's amazing, but it's also so insane that we even in back in those times, we are still living in those times where people are comfortable judging us based off what they think they know about us or who they think we are, instead of getting to know us now,
Well, there's in our, not only Catholicism, American Christianity, let's say even American religion as a whole, how I want to say this, the separation of people happening within religious communities in Western culture, America specifically, is so embedded that like it's gotten away from what it really is.
Right.
And there's just so much work, so many conversations, so much time, energy that has to be spent in kind of unraveling that.
It's true.
And I think that's the reason why, I mean, if you look at the statistics, so many people are against organized religion, you know?
Yeah.
Just because y'all a bunch of drama, like, y'all ain't really about what's in the text y'all reading about, you know?
Right. Now that's the truth. That's the truth.
And so, yeah, man, I mean, unfortunately, that's been the case.
Yeah. So fortunately, you're able to make it through this journey. You're going through these processes, and then you decide to get married. You go through this process. You meet the love of your life. You guys go through that. First of all, I commend you guys. The two of you guys are what I call, what society would call goals. True facts. How was meeting Mrs. We call her Mrs. Symbol on here. How was meeting her and then going through that journey to lead you guys where you are right now?
Well, okay, so a lot of people don't know this. So we initially met through a Facebook group. Welcome to millennials. Just being millennials. But like, so she posted in there. It was like I don't even know how I got added into the group, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
But it was something. This is before I was even doing youth ministry full time. This is when I was just like first doing the music thing and helping out.
Yeah.
Very early steps of this thing. And she just posts like, hey, I'm looking for people's testimonies to share on campus. And I just, yeah, I'll help out. You know what I'm saying? Literally, and I mean, at that point in my life, like literally, I was not trying to get in a relationship. I was like, man, girls, y'all drama. I'm good. And anyway, just kind of, and I have to like commend, a lot of people don't notice, but like, and lately I've been saying this is my relationship with my wife is a lot like my relationship with God, because God has chased me down and jumped through loopholes and stuff.
Yeah.
She actually was the one that like put in all the effort in the very beginning. Like, I gotta be honest. I wasn't with it in the beginning. But grateful again that she did and all that stuff. But
Yes.
yeah, so it started from that. It started from like one, because she was going to school upstate, and she came down to the city to kind of just meet up. She calls it our first date. I mean, I guess you can call it. For me, it was like, okay, we just meet in person. But one thing just kind of led to the next, and then, you know, over the years. Now, my wife's testimony, I mean, she was not raised in church at all. In fact, so my wife was adopted as a kid.
Yeah.
She was adopted by a Muslim family. Her adopted father was an imam. She met in high school initially on the track team, a friend who was Christian, and just kind of like introduced a little bit, but she was just like, okay, I don't know. In college, she got connected to some campus ministry stuff. That's when she gets baptized. Not Catholic at first. She never knew her birth mom. There's kind of long story of like, it was a Christmas party and she was there, and it was connected to that that ministry organization. And so like they had like worship, all this other stuff, and she went back and she was just like, man, the only thing I want to do is meet my mom. Long story short, she winds up meeting her mom like a week later. She finds out her mom is Catholic, and she starts asking a bunch of different questions. We start kind of talking. We wasn't even fully dating or whatever the case is. And we started doing Bible study just over Skype because she was away.
Right.
First, like couple years of our relationship was all long distance. And yeah, I mean, she would come down and then she would go to mass with me. And then, you know, I know some people outside the Catholic Church have issues with this, but you know, she recognized Mary, and she was like, man, the motherhood of Mary Jesus, and her seeking that motherhood in her own life, even as she was kind of thing. And you know, she realized how like that relationship with Mary led her closer to Jesus, you know. And anyway, just it's funny, in the beginning she was like, oh, you want me to become Catholic? And I was like, I don't care. Like, if you know my story, before her I was dating a Hindu girl, you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
so,
right.
Like, I'm wherever the spirit leads. And anyway, she want to come in. And so like faith has been a big foundation for us. And then just with me and my wife, like one of the things that attracted me is one, her strength, all the things she's kind of overcome. And just despite all that, kind of like her tenderness and her care. She can be rough around the edges at other points of things, but yeah, I don't know. It just it's
Yeah.
kind of progressive over time.
That's, first of all, that's amazing. That is amazing to even be able to tell this story, like, because you guys do seem different in certain aspects. You seem different, but I always feel like those are what attracts people the most. So how has ministry, being able to be being solid in a marriage and then also being a father, how has all that helped you grow in this process?
Oh man, so as far as like fatherhood, so my son was born. I was 18. My high school girlfriend, right? All that.
Mm-hmm.
I I mean, all of my adult life, I guess you could say I've been a father. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
right.
And so kind of grown with that and the drama and I mean, we know family court cases and all that.
Yes, yes.
And the challenges with that, which I think also like from a spiritual sense, sometimes when you go through stuff, it makes you dig deeper,
Mm,
and so that, and I mean, I know that that's molded me as a person, and even my wife, I mean, now we have our daughter together, but like kind of how she was with Christian and
yeah.
was even with like my mom and my sister. I mean, that was a big sign for me. Um, but uh, one one of the problems I think that we have is that we live. I don't want to say make that corny statement like we live in a generation, but we live in a time where maturity is not valued as much as it should.
Mm,
So most people think it's a good thing to act reckless,
right.
but really that's the childish thing to do, And one of the things about being a parent, about being a husband, is it forces you to make mature decisions, right? It forces you to like kind of sometimes you got to silence your own ego and your own self.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I mean, and again, going back to everything, not always perfect at that. In fact, I mess up that stuff all the time, but it helps to kind of like, it just challenges you to grow, and
Yeah.
so makes you think about things and situations a little bit differently. It makes you evaluate stuff more. So yeah, I mean, all of that stuff has kind of helped me. And one of the dope things about my wife, particularly, is her support and kind of all of this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like I remember even like it was right before we got married, um, when that situation happened with the three churches and so on and so forth. And I was just like, well, dang, how the heck we gonna get married? And I don't even know where the money about to come from. And maybe again, this comes from like a person. They have that term cradle Catholics, right? People
Yeah.
born and raised in it, and they kind of take it for granted sometimes, as opposed to converts, people who kind of like chose on.
Yeah.
She was just like, well, you really feel like God called you to, he's gonna make a way. Like just trust to do it.
Mm.
And she kind of stood by all that stuff. So I mean, yeah. So yeah. If any ladies listening, y'all stick by your man now. You know what I'm saying? Like there
Woo.
some stuff.
Woo.
Dudes, don't be unrealistic. You know what I'm saying? To make sure,
Right.
because we see all the memes about like, oh, my mixtape, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, nah, I mean she's been supportive in everything.
And I think also too, like not even being able to be vulnerable with your partner. You know what I mean? And letting them see the not so cookie cutter sides, like the parts in you that hurt, the parts in you that are broken. You know what I'm saying? The parts in you that maybe she could help mold and fix and connect you two together. So I appreciate that. And to add on to something you said earlier about living in a time where people think it's okay to kind of be reckless. I feel like also too that kind of comes apart with not knowing who you are as a person. A lot of us a lot of us and millennials in this time and place are searching for identity. You know what I mean? They're searching to figure out who they are in a world of uncertainty. You know what I mean? So I want to be this like this star, or I want to be like this person. When in reality, you haven't looked in the mirror yet to figure out who I am. You know what I mean? And dealing with the reality of who you are at the end of the day. So, I feel like that's the type of time that we're living in. And then due to this, what's happening right now, it's just straggled out even more uncertainty for people, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely, and I think there's a lot of contributing factors to it. Obviously, what you said, you kind of implied the media influence of that, right?
Yeah.
But the media influence the social structures, and that means even the school systems and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But foundationally, families are broken. Like that's,
Yeah.
I mean, what statistically speaking, what is it like? Something like 65% of American marriages end in divorce. You know?
Yep.
And that doesn't account for all the kids that are born out of wedlock. You know what I'm saying? So,
True.
like,
True.
not having a family structure that's solid, and this is not to throw shade. I mean, for real, like I come from that. You know what I'm saying? My parents split, and so that was his own struggles and stuff, and a lot of that needed to be healed, and a lot of that has had to go through its own process, and still going through its process.
Right.
The that stuff I think are all contributing factors to people not knowing themselves. Right? There's too many voices, and
That's the truth. That is the truth. But one thing I know you've been consistent with, especially during these times and even before, is health and wellness. You've poured into my life and have inspired me and motivated me to remain consistent. What charged you to want to get up and get healthy and get fit? Because your journey has been amazing.
Well, well, I think there's parts to it, right? So number one, before my parents split, like I saw that, like my pops used to be like that, right? And so sometimes to an exaggerated degree that was negative, but there was something foundational in that. Like my pops used to make me do push-ups in the morning. Like I always saw my pops lifting weights at home. He was really that, like, I mean, from the Dominican background, that like, like that macho man, don't cry,
Yes.
speak with deep voice, like
Yeah.
that, you don't cry, and if I hit you and you cry, you get hit more.
You get hit more, right?
And again, some of that is extra. So some of that is a little bit of it, foundationally. Two, I mean, when I was younger, all through high school and all that stuff, I usually did. Like I had a routine of it. When my son was born, that like just got out of whack. Like, I mean, from the different changes that were happening in my life, I couldn't seem to commit to a schedule with that. So got to the point now, with the marriage and with everything, I mean, just we got to a place I'm like, oh, I'm stable. I can commit to it. I'm good. I like that. So I know that's a huge part of it, right? Sort of boom. And then at the same time, I just have one of those all in kind of personalities. So like if I'm gonna do something, like I just kind of go on, and so I think that's part of the reason why I never committed to it before, because it was just like I wasn't able to like
see it, right?
The third part, I'm not gonna lie, this actually just hit me recently. Like it dawned on me. So where I'm at in my life, like as we speak today, like I've been saying this even through the pandemic. Like a lot of people have been stressed about so much, man. Man, my heart is with the people who lost jobs, people who lost family members. Just, I mean, so much of that is honestly like on the flip side, I'm probably in one of the best places I've been in my life, and I think it's because just all the childhood traumas and all the other things I went through, like I've gotten to a place where like, okay, I'm cool, I'm good. Like, okay, I got to deal with some of these things that maybe are small crosses or small stressors, but there's nothing so overwhelming. And it hit me like, man, again, this was just recently. It was one of those days like I went hard. There's certain days where like you gave your all in the workout and
Yeah.
everything. And I stopped and I like sat down and like breathing, and it was just like, yo, maybe I'm addicted to stress.
And it's sad. It's sad when you realize that is your reality, like
Yeah.
stress.
And I mean, this is a positive stress, right? Because when you're working out, what you're doing, you're literally adding stress to your body in order to, because muscles grow during rest period, right? But
Right.
it's the stress before that pushes them to the limits, so that during that rest and of eating, they kind of get filled and grow, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, I mean, I think all of those have a part to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I just enjoy it, man. I think even like the thing of like challenging myself to wake up early and go, like like all those little challenges that I kind of psychologically am putting on my body, physically putting on my body. It spiritually helps me,
Mm-hmm.
helps me as I deal with other people, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you react to people in certain ways because you have this pent up stress.
Mm-hmm.
But since I done you know, push myself to my limits physically,
Yeah.
sometimes it gives me the little, now I can listen to you. So I think there's so many benefits to it, man, and
Mm-hmm. And
me,
even so much as to making it a family thing. It's not just about you, but about your wife being involved and your son being involved and your little baby being involved. Like, why was that so important for you to make it a family aspect?
well, I think it's just natural, like anything else, right? Like anything you enjoy, you share.
Right.
You know, you eat something good, you take a picture of it and put it on social media. I mean, it's
Yep.
just you watch a movie, you tell somebody to go watch that movie. I mean, it's so yeah. I mean, there's been my struggles in getting certain things. It's funny, my daughter, out of all of them, and her 2-year-old self, she's the one that wants to work out and stuff out more than all of them. Like, and she's like, "Daddy, push ups," and she just like goes down, like kind of, you know. Um, I think my son is just dealing with the whole like preteen get lazy. All I want to do is play video game syndrome, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, it's good for him. I mean, especially during this time of kind of quarantine, because he was playing football before, and so like all that like training, all that stuff kind of went out the window. Um, even though they're talking about now they might allow sports. So I don't know if we're gonna sign him up or not. I mean, I'm still weary. Gyms are supposed to open up next week. I don't even know if I'm gonna go for another
I
month.
know. I know. Yeah. I'm not going for another month. I'm gonna let the hype wear out, and then I'm gonna go.
Yeah. So, but yeah. I mean, I think it's just naturally kind of transpires, ways.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna ask some questions. So as comfortable as it is for you, you let me know. You ready?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. What 3 words will you use to describe yourself?
Um, Creativity is one of the things I value most. So I would say that creativity. I don't know, some along those lines. Um, Motivated. I mean, I think um like I was saying before, when I get my mind wrapped around it, something to a degree, I'm just like I lack in sometimes to the point of being hard headed, but like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, that, so let's say creative, motivated, I'm trying to find the word for what I'm trying to say, but, it's just like bringing people together. I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know what's a word that expresses that, like, in its own way,
Yeah.
but, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. What was your most embarrassing moment?
Ooh, hmm. Most embarrassing moment. So Rewind back to issues with my son's mother and so forth, which thank God they've been like amazing as
Mm-hmm.
lately. Um, we've grown and gone through certain stuff, but um, initially there was just bumping of heads, not seeing eye to eye on certain things. We had split. She felt some type of way. I was talking to somebody else. This is even before my wife, you know, and
Yeah.
she decides to make up accusations of stuff and take me to court, and orders of protection and all that stuff was put on. And while the case was being seen through, um, I texted her about a pickup date for my
Mm-hmm.
son. Is in the order, but she takes it as, oh, you violated the order. So anyway, long story short, I'm coming out of church. This is like kind of right before this is like I'm first. I think honestly, when I said that I was gonna do this for the church, that was October of that.
Mm-hmm.
This was December 11th. So this is like I want to say it was the first was like October 20th, December 11th. So just said I'm doing this. I'm
Yeah.
going to church. I'm going to mass every morning, like literally every day. I come home from mass. Cops show up, taking cuffs, central bookings, that whole thing. And man, I remember that day. Like there was this moment where like one, for anybody out there, you do not want to be in cuffs. That is the most uncomfortable thing.
Yep.
You know, um, especially in the little back seat of the car, we got no leg room, and I'm short. Like you know what I'm saying, there's no leg room for me.
uh,
So like that and the whole thing, and then like there was this thought that popped in my head, like as I'm there, like I'm like next to the window and driving by and like I kept like duck, like I didn't want nobody to see me through the window.
uh-huh.
Just and that's why I said it was kind of an embarrassing moment. It was just like, dang, I didn't even do nothing. Like I just came. And yeah, it was just probably the most kind of like self-conscious
Okay.
moment.
All
Yeah.
right. If you could meet and have dinner with any person who ever lived, who would it be and why? And what would you ask them?
Hmm. Hmm. Dang, that's hard. That one's hard. Um,
Anybody.
I mean, it's like when you say it, right? The obvious question is gonna be like Jesus, but like
Of course. Yeah. Oh,
but like beyond that, like I'm thinking of like where my mind was going was like, okay, maybe somebody who's like an influential person who kind of helped and put some things into practice. And so my brain starts going through the list of the Mother Teresa's, the Martin Luther Kings, the like those. You know what
mm-hmm.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then, I mean, automatically my brain go like one of the first people my brain goes to is like people like Tupac. But like, and I'm like,
Okay.
if I can only choose one person, I'm like, okay, who would it be? So I'm thinking to myself. Then I'm thinking like maybe one of the saints. You know who I would like to, and this is literally the first time I've ever thought of this question. As you're saying this, Joseph, Mary's husband, Joseph.
Mm.
I think for my unique position, even what we've just been talking about, like, um, father, husband, I mean,
Yeah.
someone who's following God, whatever. And I think as a Christian specifically, Joseph doesn't speak in scripture.
Right.
Like, what the heck was going through my man's mind? Yet plays one of the most monumental roles. um, and so I think at this point in time, me thinking of it off the top of my head, that's where I would go.
That's dope. I would have never thought about Joseph. See? I would have never took it there. Never. I would have never even gotten to that point. What's your biggest fear?
Um, man, to be real, losing my family, like that's like more than anything else.
Mm,
Um,
that's a real one.
I
That's a
know,
real answer.
I know so much that like a big part of my traumas and everything as a kid was the what happened in my home. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
everything between my parents and so on and so forth. And I fear that becoming my reality. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's good. Last question. Who do you look up to the most, and what qualities do you love about that person?
I mean, there's a couple people that inspire me on different levels. Um, Probably one of the most constant of my life. My grandfather, my mom's side.
Yeah.
I think especially in recent years, as I've realized, uh, my grandfather's one of them people like he'll work. He worked every dang job you can think of, like, and just has stories from the Army and the Marines. You know
Mm,
what I'm saying? Driving the trains here, the subway system. You
yeah.
know, um, as a kid, uh, you know, he had to drop out and help support his family, like literally, and he would like shoe shine and sweep up floors for the mafia that owned the little stores in the area. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Um, I mean, everything. Owned a gas station at one point. Is a jeweler. Like as
right. Right. Right.
um, and uh, I think is one of the things that's influenced me, kind of to be sort of that jack of all trades, kind of all just jump in and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Wow.
and kind of, yeah. I mean, my grandfather's been a constant for me.
Mm, that was touching. It gave me chills. Um, I have to say, just from meeting you from the first time at the encounter, I always felt like you had a mature spirit. I know you were saying like, learning to be mature in the midst of all that you had gone through, but I feel like you always had that spirit. This for me. Maybe if you had to put the facade on, but I always felt like you were that. Um, if you had to go back and speak to your younger self, what would you tell yourself that you know now?
Um, Dang, it's funny. I recently got asked this question somewhere else. I would just I It's not even so much about the decision making or anything like that. It would just be like I would show myself this is how it ends on the other side. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Because I think so one of the things is I never saw myself past the age of 27. You
yeah.
know, I woke up on my 28th birthday thinking like, oh snap, yo, I'm here, like I'm good. And it was
Mm,
funny for me. It was one of the first times I felt young. So when you say like the maturity thing, like I always felt old. I think it was because I was the older brother, older grandchild. My parents split, having to be the man house, like that. All those like things, like I was always forced to be thrust into that.
oh man, not again.
It's going you gonna be all right. Oh no, you gonna make it to the other side. You know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So one of the things that I want to this kind of ask you before we end. You are in youth ministry and you do a lot of youth ministry. Why do you feel like there's such a decrease in numbers when it comes to young people and just celebrating being Catholic young people? I feel like we battle, amidst Catholicism and Christianity and Baptist. And why do you feel like young people, are ashamed to celebrate being this Catholic, young Catholic people?
I mean, I've said this so many times is the lack of good examples in our
Mm,
modern context. You know,
yeah,
um, so there's there. I mean, people would say, and let me say this, relatable. Yeah, modern context. I mean, like I mean, if they do give an example, they always give an example of somebody lived in the 1500s. You know what I'm saying? Or
mm,
lived on the other side of the world, like, or like I mean, just we don't have so many like living examples, and I would say even more than that, um, we've actively had some bad examples. We
true,
can't run away from things like the pre-scandals. We can't run away from things like certain people abusing power. We can't run away from things like the separations that have happened.
right,
You know,
right.
um, yeah, I think just that. people not being real in their walk. You know, that's hurt tremendously. You know,
Yeah.
because before you get to know who God is, sometimes is you see the example of the people there. You know,
Who are on the walk right now.
yeah, and so you be like, oh well, hold up, if they like that, I don't want nothing to do with that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go
Yep.
just do my own thing, and so
Yep.
and I don't think this is only the Catholic Church. I think all churches are experiencing this in some way, shape, or form. Um, and I would say even all religions, because again, like, I mean, people talk about the highest growing number of religious affiliation in America is what they call nuns, None. Like, they don't affiliate with any religion. They just,
Yeah.
I believe that there's some God, maybe, and I kind of get some ideas from here and there. And maybe I pray when I'm going through something. I'm just like, hey, God, help me, but
Yeah.
I don't have any structured form of my faith practice,
Mm-hmm.
because again, that lack of examples.
That's
But
the truth. That's the unfortunately that's just the truth of the situation here. Um, thank you. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking some time out. I really appreciate every time you're here. It's always a joy. It's always a pleasure, my man. So I appreciate you. We celebrate you and all that you've done so far to get here. We continue to pray for you and your family. And keep motivating, my man. Keep inspiring. Keep being a leader because we need that. We talk about examples, but I feel like, what you've done is a mighty example of, an everyday Catholic. You know what I'm saying? A person who has had downfalls, who continues to go through this up and down journey, but you can talk about it and how God has gotten you through, even in the midst of. You know what I'm saying? So I'm forever thankful to have you be a part, my man. And everybody, please go and follow him. Be the symbol. Be the symbol. Period. That's it. It is what it is. I thank all of you guys for coming in, coming out. For those of you who tuned in and stayed in, those of you who will tune in later. This is almost over. Tomorrow's the last day of the season, and I'm in all my feels about it. But we're back tomorrow, 1 p.m. for our final episode, and I'll let you guys know later who that guy is. So thank you for tuning in. I love y'all. Have a good night.
peace.